What's going on, YouTube? Metal Complex here, and welcome to episode 21 of my Sunday series, The Knife Guy. If you are new to my channel or you just came out of some weird corner of the internet and you have no idea what's going on, I am a knife enthusiast, knife collector, knife user. I am a knife guy of all sorts. Most of you watching are knife guys and gals of sorts. And we all go through our own unique paths. We all go through our own strange roads, as we venture into this knife hobby. But a lot of our paths intersect. In fact, there are a lot of circumstances and just situations that we all kind of share that are very, very similar. And this series is dedicated to those topics. So what I like to do is lay out a bunch of stuff that is a combination of my own and some other people's, and just stuff that I've talked about recently or stuff that I'm going to talk about coming up on my channel. And I basically just like to pick them up and flip them and turn them over and talk about some of these topics, or these experiences that we all collectively share. Before we get started here, just want to remind everybody at the time of this recording, I am currently at 65 patrons. Once we hit 70 patrons, I'll be doing a giveaway for the Lion Steel ROK in M390. It's a red aluminum integral with that cool retractable pocket clip. Really, really cool. Brand new, comes with the original box. Once we hit 70, I'll be doing a giveaway that's free to enter for everybody, not just patrons, not just subscribers, literally everybody. So if you'd like to help support my channel and help me reach that goal, follow the link in the description to my Patreon, have a look around, and then if you'd like to, you can join any tier. I'd really appreciate it. Also, I'll be picking up all these knives. A lot of these knives were basically loaned to me for review by Neves Knives. I'll link their channel in the description. You should definitely give them a sub. All of these knives, are going to get individual reviews, but if there's anything that you see and you're like, I'd kind of like to buy that, I'll try and link my Amazon affiliate links for each individual knife in the description so you can buy. What are we going to talk about today? So, this is a funny topic, and it's funny because I'm coming to you with this topic as someone who actually perpetuates the topic and is also afflicted by it, either by other channels or other knife-related content providers, or myself, ironically. And that's knife community peer pressure. What do I mean by that? Well, there are two knives that I have zeroed in on for no other reason than simply the rest of the knife community insisting on them. You guys everybody knows, everybody has this knife. It seems like everybody has a Rat 1 or a Rat 2. But you remember not knowing about it and then it's suddenly becoming a thing, if you've been a part of the knife community for a while, to remember when these first started to kind of really blow the doors off of the budget world. Rat 1 and D2 steel, fully flat ground blade, liner lock, running on washers, the ultimate, beater knife, the ultimate budget, hard use beater knife, all of a sudden became available in D2 for $44, right? Peer pressure. Buy it. Everybody says it's awesome. Don't like how it looks? Doesn't matter. You need one. Buy it. Buy it. That's how it was, right? And it's still like that with like everything. All these different companies are getting so good at, catering to these individual, these areas that people enjoy. Whether you're a budget knife person or you are a, higher end production knife person, or you're a custom knife person, like they've kind of figured out like what people like. That peer pressure is being applied to me in the form of two knives right now. It constantly exists in the form of Hinderer knives. I can't get away from that, and I definitely perpetuate that. But the two knives that I cannot avoid, I feel like it's an inevitability. When you get that feeling like, I will own that knife. There's nothing that's going to stop me. The moment you've crossed into the event horizon of whether or not it's not a question of whether or not you want to own it. I'm going to just count down until said time. For me right now, the production, there's a million budget knives that I feel pressured into buying. Which is funny, it defeats the purpose, them being budget knives, because I want to own them all. The high-end production knife that I feel compelled to purchase, based on peer pressure, is the Spyderco Kapara. funny enough, I was initially, it's not normally a blade shape that I go after. It's a Spyderco, which means if I really dig deep and ask myself this question, it has aesthetics that I, traditionally find unappealing. I've talked about that before. I love Spyderco, I just find them aesthetically unappealing. It's made in Taiwan, which is not something I like to see on the blade. I've accepted enjoying knives that are made in different countries. I just don't like to see Taiwan or China on the blade. And it has a pocket clip that I don't traditionally like, the wire clip. Now, I know there's a lot of you out there who are like, what? The Kapara looks great. And the Taichung Taiwan factory is notoriously their best plant, or arguably their best plant for quality control. And the wire clip's like one of the best pocket knives out there, or pocket clips out there. How could you say that? I just don't like that stuff. I just don't like it. But I feel compelled to get one. And I managed to convince myself that I didn't need it because of what people were saying. They were like, well, it's got the fidget factor, it's a great blade design, it's an awesome EDC tool, it's got contouring on the scales, has this really stylish design, but it doesn't quite have the same satisfying, like, drop shutty action, as some other Spydercos. So I was like, all right, I can play. And all I was doing was just kidding myself until, the constant quality control thing that Spyderco does yielded a better version of it. And lo and behold, apparently they did something. This most recent batch of Kaparas has that more, fidgety. Isn't it a compression lock? I'm pretty sure it's a compression lock. So it's also a compression lock, and now it's got the fidget factor. Now I feel like I just have to have it. Because here's the thing. If it was just like one of those obscure knives in Spyderco's line, and nobody was really talking about it, I might look at it and go, that's interesting. I don't know if I'm really interested, in paying $180, $190, $200 for a Taichung Taiwan model at Spyderco that nobody's really talking about. And I probably would ignore it. But since everybody's talking about it, everybody's in the Kapara club, except for Metal Complex, and I'm thinking about the perspective of my channel, I'm like, it might be good for the channel. I'm not really concerned about whether or not it'd be good for the channel. I'm just looking for excuses to own it, right? Because everybody's like, pressure. If you're really in this, like, you are on blade forums, you are a part of however many different webs, different networks that are on YouTube. There's like clusters of us in channels. If you watch my channel, you probably watch Jack Farmboy, you probably watch Zach stuff, you probably watch Super Steel Steve, you probably watch Slicey Dicey, a whole bunch more. Neves Knives, you probably watch all those guys, right? We're all talking about the same stuff all the time. And it trickles down. It comes from channels like, it comes from like Birdshot and Nick Shabazz and some other channels. And they think it's good, so it trickles down to us, and we're like, yeah, we also agree. And then everybody's like, oh, we all need this. We do that. We're all victims of it. Sometimes we victimize ourselves. So now, like, I'm just convinced that I need this knife that I wouldn't otherwise, I probably wouldn't give a second glance to, right? And I'm doing it to myself. The other knife that I cannot seem to avoid, and it came from listening to a recent podcast. It wasn't even a recent one. It was the Knife Nuts. I can't remember which podcast. It was a podcast with Nick Shabazz. They were talking about the Holts. And I had seen Jim Skelton's review of the Holt Spectre V2. And I had seen Nick Shabazz's review of it. And I don't know. For whatever reason, right then and there in that moment, I was like, yeah, cool knife. And then I listened to this podcast, and I followed them on Instagram, and more people talked about it, and then they upgraded it to V3 and talked about these different improvements, and then more people were talking about them, and then I got in and looked at things, and I started thinking, I was like, oh, wow, man, that grind is really, a great grind for EDC. And then I found out, it's not like I can just pick one up whenever I want. You have to kind of put your name in there and wait in line or do one of their lottery things. And then it was like the exclusivity on top of that. And everybody, once I started opening my ears. It's like when you get a new car and you don't notice how many of them are on the road until you're driving it. And then all of a sudden you start seeing them everywhere. when you zero in on something, when your focus is on something, it's all of a sudden like you can't avoid it. It's everywhere. As soon as my attention was on the Holt Spectre, I saw it everywhere. It was like YouTube knew, like, oh, he's locking onto that. Let's toss him a whole bunch of stuff about the Spectre. And now I'm just zeroing in on that thing. I want one so bad. And for a brief moment, my brain was like, you should put your name in and spend like $700 on an ideal or $600, whatever they run, you know? It's like I started to look at all their options and I was like, man, I could totally blow a huge chunk of change getting exactly the right Spectre. You know, peer pressure. Whatever the hot thing is, it trickles down and it has this, you know, all of us are susceptible to this this toxicity. You know, I don't want to call it toxicity. This element that's involved with, you know, the same thing that compels us to just seethe and want, you know, and we have this itch that needs to be scratched in one way, shape, or form. And then this new hot thing, right? It just makes us want it. I remember seeing this knife, the P801, and it's a simple budget knife, but you know, everybody started talking about it, and I was like, well, now I feel like I need one, you know? And then I zeroed in on it and started convincing myself, giving myself all these different circumstances where that knife would be ideal or make sense, or that maybe, you know, maybe I just wanted it or whatever. I'd give myself a million reasons. And then fortunately, I didn't have to buy it because I'm getting to handle it and play with it because Neve's Knives were nice enough to let me borrow it. But I would have at some point, you know? And peer pressure affects all of us differently. You know, sometimes like your taste is overpowering. If the knife is so outside of your taste, you just won't get it, you know? Then you just won't. And it makes it easier to say no when it's kind of an expensive knife. But I'll tell you what. Let's take the steel wheel Tenet, for example. You know, I don't like this color scheme. They had it in a different color scheme, I think I might buy this, you know? But if a knife like this, right, somebody looks at this and they go, I don't care what color scheme that's in, I'm just not into it. But for whatever reason, the Tenet just remained in our faces. We all know how quickly the knife world moves now. You know, knives don't reign supreme as long as the Rat 1 anymore. They reign supreme for a couple of months and then you move on. It's like pop stars or, you know, any artist that's in mainstream media. They're cool for a couple of months and then the whole world forgets about them. You know, that's how it is in the knife world right now. But let's say the Tenet just, you know, happened to be a knife that just stayed in our faces for a long time. Just reviewers, more and more and more reviewers saying, this is amazing. It became the knife, hypothetically, became the knife that all other budget knives were compared to. On top of that, it is a budget knife. So it's people are like, oh, well, I can afford that. And it comes in all these different flavors, right? And there's like more and more videos constantly in your face. No matter how much you dislike that knife from the start, almost everybody would be affected by that peer pressure. And maybe not every single person would buy it, but a lot of people would. That's what happened with the Rat, right? I remember looking at the Rat and going, that is so weird. And the handles are plastic. Ugh. And it says Taiwan on the tang. I am never going to own that knife. Well, eventually it got to me, and I bought one, and I'm like, you know what? This is like the best. And if you watch my Quest for the Perfect Budget Knife series, you'll know the whole series is based on what they did right with the Rat, but what could be better about it. You know, like that's kind of what I'm building on. I mean, if you haven't figured out, the silhouette on the thumbnail is the Rat. I mean, it's literally the Rat, like, but I cut a choil into it on a photo editor. You know, that would be great, but I need to change a bunch of other things about it, which we'll go over in fine details. But yeah, you know, even like I've noticed a few of you have actually bought your own Rainbow Lady of the Sea from my my affiliates link down there. You know, like just me joking with you guys. I'm sorry, my queen, I would never joke about your power and your grace. But even me, like, kind of, you know, tossing that around a little bit has affected enough of you to be like, you know what, I think I want that. And it wasn't even me who started that gag. It was Blade HQ. I mean, I've affected like 12 people, but Blade HQ's affected that. The whole reason that that's popular was even brought to my attention in the first place was just because of Blade HQ. Now, as a reviewer, you know, now I'm not a huge channel. In fact, I'm not really that big of a channel. and this community. But I still feel I have a responsibility because I am somebody who perpetuates that a little bit, right? So if I ran, and I know a lot of you guys have told me that you have bought the Spyderco Shaman, or a few of you have told me that I alone convinced you to buy a Hinderer, right? I'm pumped because I do like both of these knives, but sometimes it's a multitude of people, and sometimes it's just one person, just insisting over and over and over again, like this is one of the best things out there. It convinces you to buy things. But a lot of times it's like just when a certain model or thing is just constantly in your face, it wears you down. You start to question what you liked previously about some other folding knives and how those elements compare to this thing that everybody's into right now, and then you start to think, well, how could I fit those elements into my day-to-day usage habits with folding knives or fixed blades? And you start to look for reasons to justify these things, right? And then before you know it, that screen pops up and it's your order confirmation from Amazon, eBay, USA Made Blade, Blade HQ, Knife Center, DLT Trading, Arizona Custom Knives, blah, 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 blah. White Mountain Knives, Smoky Mountain Knife Works. The list goes on. We all have our retailers. Before you know it, you've ordered it, right? And then then it's like you've ordered it, then you just start obsessing over it and convincing yourself it's going to be the best thing ever. But we hardly step back and question, like, wait a minute. I went from telling myself at first glance, I'll never own that, I'm not interested in that at all, to suddenly being like, oh, I can't wait for this, it's going to be the best thing ever because everybody says it's the best thing ever. Like, how did we get here? Because jerks like me are like, yeah, you should totally get this because now that I'm handling it, I'm kind of feeling the energy that everybody else had when they picked it up, and it was like the best thing, Like the freaking Knockout. The Knockout and the Bare Knuckle, both of these, first glance, I was like, I'm not interested in either of those. But then everybody was talking about how cool they were, and so then I subconsciously set myself up, and then Neves Knives sends them to me, and I pick them up, and I'm like, yeah, I get it. Some of that is absolutely organic. It has to be because I won't put out reviews unless I actually think that. But all of us are also training our subconscious, as we become more interested because of the peer pressure that we're experiencing from our friends in the knife community, popular Instagram accounts, popular YouTube channels. We're training ourselves and kind of gearing it, maybe I do want that. Maybe I like that knife, It absolutely exists. We're all affected by it. I do it to myself. I will go back and watch my own reviews on knives that people lent me and convince myself, based on my own opinion, to buy it because of my own energy. Combined with some other channels who also like it, The Kapara is the best example I can think of. The Holt, I get it. That's partially me and partially peer pressure. The Kapara is not something I would have ever considered by myself. But everybody loves that thing. Everybody talks about all the different design elements that make it such a great knife. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe I do need that. So rest assured, at some point, you guys will see a Spyderco Kapara on this channel. Oh, peer pressure is so real. To the most resilient of us. And I'm not referring to myself. I am not very resilient. But some of you guys are, and in one way, shape, or form, I promise you, the peer pressure of this knife community affects you. Oh, that's going to be about it for today's episode, guys. I hope you found this entertaining or informative or something positive in some way, shape, or form. If you did, please leave a like if you'd like to check out my other content. I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, then go ahead and click on this Metal Complex logo right here and subscribe to my channel because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.